Live. We are back on the soapbox. All right, gang, here we are. Sorry, a few days late here. It's been a little wild and crazy with the past weekend and whatnot. Some stuff going on, but nonetheless, we'll get this sucker out to you guys. I did a podcast with MyFit. Posted about it. Some really cool stuff. He had a good idea of posting or doing a two-part series on sort of like the 10 things I've learned over the past 10 years, and I put some thought into it. So definitely check that out. And I'll try to get the recording at some point and throw it up on the soapbox so you guys have it for at least for reference. Much longer form than what we do here on the soapbox. It's about almost an hour a piece, so it's definitely a little more a little longer on the longer side compared to our 20-minute segments here that we see on the soapbox. But definitely check that out. Spend some time thinking about those 10 and really equating them from learning from competing, business, family, all that. So training, coaching, those types of things. So, take a listen to that. I think it was a good resource. I was happy with how it turned out. So that's up there. It's live. I've posted about it a few times. I'll post about it a few more times. But here we go. What I wanted to talk about this time is actually, I put up a post, a teaser on my Instagram, and then put it up on the hand plan of how to teach the butterfly pull-up. And it got some really good feedback, and someone had a question. I thought it was a good question, and it brings up a basic misunderstanding, I think, which runs rampant in the fitness world and CrossFit world specifically. And it was basically, the question was, hey, Austin, I saw that you teach it with knees bent. So in the butterfly progression, the first progression we use after you have the basic understanding of what a kipping pull-up progression is, and you have the strength and ability to do strict pull-ups and gymnastic kipping, then we teach the butterfly pull-up. We basically teach, bringing your heels to your butt, and then you actually press down, which is like the backside of a kip swing, and press down, and throw your legs in front of you to work on some of the momentum piece. And the question was, hey, look like you're teaching to bend the knees, because then when you get back to that bottom position, you bring your heels to your butt, and then you cycle those things. But the gymnastic course talks about, which is our CrossFit specialty course, and I know those guys over there, they're really great people. They teach keeping your legs straight, understanding shapes, right? Your hollows, your arches, your C's, so on and so forth, and understanding how to be more streamlined and efficient and blah 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 blah. And he's like, well, where there seems to be, and this guy's question was, there seems to be a tension, or is one right or one wrong, or so on and so forth. And it really did highlight a misunderstanding and a misconception of what the purpose of our specialists are and specialty instructors are compared to the generalists, compared to what we do on the floor, but also understanding a progression of how we get people to where they want to be. So I want to take this time to really break this down, because people really struggle with this, and we get at the level 1. And gymnastics is a good one because it's I think we understand the barbell a little better, but even still the barbell purists will struggle with it too. But it's no different than like at the top of a ring dip, right? Like, well, if you're taught to turn out at the top, right? At the gymnastics course, it's externally rotated position, and blah 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 blah. But we don't really do worry about that too much. Certainly, when we're teaching the ring dip to start, and certainly when we're cycling multiple repetitions. But it doesn't mean it's a position we don't want to work on or practice or touch. It just might not fit within the scope of what we're trying to do, say, in Elizabeth 21:15:9. But should we be able to show a turnout at the top of a strict dip before we go to multiple dips for kipping? Oh, well, now we maybe dive into this. Are there skills that we want to work on pre and post workout that we might not necessarily lace into a metabolic conditioning workout? Now we're talking. Right? So is it a progression? Is it an end state of virtuosity? Now we're talking. Now, let's talk about it. So that's basic premise. No different than, hey, and I think, and Chuck Bennington, he threw some comments on there, which were great, and agreed with him there, is that, hey, it's no different than on a barbell where, your 75-pound snatch for Randy is probably going to be a little different than your 300-pound snatch, and it's probably going to look a little different than your 135 Isabel snatch, right? But the guiding tension should all be there. That doesn't mean we're not going to let people, right, snatch at 75 pounds with missing hip extension, for example. But it also doesn't mean we're going to fully ignore it. But Also, the progressions might change over time, right? If we have this archetype movement at the end. So let's start here with the specialists. What do the specialists really want? What are they looking for? Well, if you go to the gymnastics course, you go to our Olympic lifting course, blah, 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 specifically from specialists. Their purpose, and rightfully so, as it should be, is to teach you this end state virtuous positions and how to achieve these movements within the gymnastic world, weightlifting world, so on and so forth. And these things are to learn from and take best practices. And for some of us, maybe the end state, right? So, never bending your knees in a butterfly pull-up or a kipping pull-up are very similar positions there. In our Olympic lifting, making sure that we hit every single position off the floor and that, what does it look like and triple extension and blah, 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 blah. And that's what we would like to get to, right? That's maybe this end state piece. It's no different than like, hey, when we front squat, I would like to have a full grip on the bar with the bar on the body, elbows up nice and high, no fingers off the bar, right? That's what we want to get to, right? And I think we all understand that because a lot of us are like, well, gosh, I don't know if I can do that today. Well, we have a progression and we get you there. And we start with a loose fingertip grip, maybe 1 or 2 fingers. And because that allows you to start the movement, allows you to practice the movement, and allows you to take baby steps to start to tighten it up and get better over time. But what it doesn't do is it limits us from, hey, if you cannot put all your fingers around the bar on a front squat, that means you can't front squat. If you cannot do a butterfly pull-up without your legs straight, then you cannot do a butterfly pull-up. That's not what we're talking about here. And it's not, and obviously I'm not going to speak for the specialist because I'm not one, but I don't think that's what they're saying either. They're saying is, hey, this is what we want to get to. And so let's teach it. Let's teach you how to understand it, refine your own movement, all this good stuff. Love it. But is it feasible to get people to go there on day one? No, no one's going to say that, right? Now, so we have to make progressions to bridge the gap, to get people there, right? A good example would be, again, in the push press, we have a dip and hold, right? A dip, drive slow, dip, drive fast, and then a full movement, where if you really think about it, in a dip and hold, it's a fault, right? We don't want you to pause in the bottom. Dip, drive slow is a fault too. We need speed. But part of the progression to teach positioning and also to make sure that we are moving our body at the right times and all that stuff is we actually slow it down. We change the movement a little bit in the pursuit of a progression to get us to the end state. Now, because that means when we get to the full movement, we're probably still going to make some errors. But it doesn't mean that we can't do the movement either. So look at it like that. And I thought it was, and it's interesting because a lot of people really struggle in the beginning of their CrossFit career. And where like, now you know enough and then you learn and you listen to the Olympic lifter, the gymnast or the runner or whatever it might be. And like this is, the kettlebell specialist. And remember this. Learning from the best, you want to beg, borrow, and steal and take those parts and pieces. And we're also talking for the general public. I'm not talking about the best athletes in the world. Different scope, quite frankly, doesn't matter. What matters more is our people, right? Our 300, 400, 500 members at our gym that are just people that show up 3 to 4 times a week, if that, and they show up late and leave early. And now, right, you only have 45 minutes, but for a lot of us in these new class setups with COVID restrictions, right? So, we have all of this. What's our goal? Well, our goal is so we want to give people a good workout, check, right? So therefore we need to warm them up appropriately. We need to scale them appropriately. We need to make sure that they are, properly loaded and are ready for the workout, right? That includes general warm-up, specific warm-up, movement prep, so on and so forth. Then we have the workout, then we need to cool them down effectively and potentially do some accessory work and send them on their way. Everyone's goals for the most part in your gym are the same, right? They want to look better naked. They want more functionality. They want functional competence, maybe not functional dominance, but they also would just like to get better, right? Once they start doing this stuff, they also want to garner new skills, refine current skills, and challenge themselves. And that might be in the form of moving heavier weights. But certainly in the gymnastic world, moving heavier weights means moving your body weight more, right? If we've scaled out, so that goes from a banded pull-up to some other version of a scaled pull-up to a strict pull-up, to a kipping pull-up, and then to a chest to bar kipping pull-up, then to then you have your L pull-ups, and you maybe have your butterfly pull-ups, so on and so forth. So also learning new skills as well. As we develop the base fundamental levels of strength, capacity, and awareness, we can then layer on new skills. People want this. Now, is it people's life goal? No. No one walks in the gym and says, my life goal is to get a butterfly pull-up. I haven't heard anyone say that. They see it and they're like, that's cool. After they do CrossFit for a while, they're like, wow, I think that would be, I'd like to add that skill. Now, remember, it's a skill. Teach the butterfly pull-up like a skill, like other things, like a kipping handstand push-up, those types of things. Teach that like a skill that allows you to also develop other things, which means you can work on your butterfly pull-ups, but it doesn't mean you're actually going to volumize them in a workout for a while, right? We want a good amount of strict pull-ups, and you should master the gymnastic kipping pull-up before we get there as well, because those, specifically going back to our gymnastics specialists, those shapes that you're going to see in a refined kipping pull-up will then translate much easier, nicer to a butterfly pull-up and make your life easier to coach it. So, with that said, we make a progression to get our newer athletes there. And it's not necessarily beginner athletes. It's newer athletes to it. It's whomever it might be. And we do it to make it easy for your athletes to understand, for your athletes to be able to just execute. Remember, a good teacher is able to effectively communicate all this knowledge and understanding to something that they can actually do. Right? So does it matter too much all that you know? It does not. Does it matter that you have this archetype movement that you want? No. What matters is how do we get our people to do that? Then the second piece on this, which is really important and lost on many people, is how do you teach this to a class? So one-on-one is very different. I'm not talking about that, right? I can teach pretty much anyone anything one-on-one depending on their abilities to actually physically do something, right? Can they hold on to a bar, so on and so forth. And that's not what I'm talking about because, quite frankly, that's easy, right? That's one-on-one training, and that's where everyone should start because it is easier, right? So the next step is to start to think about, okay, how do I get this to a class? And that was what the video was about, and that's what we're going to start doing a lot more of on the hand plans, giving you guys tools like that, where it's like, all right, how do we teach? Because we need to teach higher skill movements to a class, but understanding that you might only have a handful in your class that have the ability or have earned the right to practice that stuff. So you have 5 people that are going to work on their butterfly pull-up, then you have 10 people that are still working on their kipping pull-ups, and you have 5 other people that can barely hang onto the bar, don't have the ability to even do much of a kip swing in practice, right? So you have this spectrum of athletes. We need to develop that progression to get there. And this is the most important thing. So, and if you look at what happens in gyms, they just don't coach higher skill movements like handstand walks, right? Handstand push-ups, like muscle ups. Why don't you program that? Well, my members don't have it. Well, no shit, they don't have it because you've never programmed it. And there are a lot of programs out there that don't program high skill things. And quite frankly, I think that's a mistake. So if you want to follow our programming, you're going to be challenged as a coach to teach this stuff. That's why when I say if you follow the hand plan programming and you're affiliate, and what do affiliates get? They get our lesson plans that help you teach the movement, that understand the movement, so then your athletes can be scaled effectively, because that's the most important aspect. And there's no other way around it. And that's what we truly believe is the purpose of what we do. Everyone has earned and deserved the right to practice these skills. That's why I think you should go to these specialist courses and learn, become more comfortable with the gymnastic movements, with weightlifting movements that you might be uncomfortable with, because we have to teach them. And when we come up with our progression, when we come up with our what we're doing, you have to also think that within the progressions, not only are we warming up, not only are we giving them time to practice, we're also lacing in possible scaling options for the workout that day. So that also is important too. So what you don't want to do is, because you need to teach the scaling options and make sure they're aware of it and have some touches. So as you go through this progression, I call them bus stops. People potentially will stop progressing through because they don't have the skill or capacity to keep moving on, but they can stay where they are and keep practicing, keep refining. And this is where a lot of people struggle. It's like, what do I do? It's like, well, remember, newer athletes need more time practicing anyway. And oftentimes, if we are deconditioned as well, we're not going to be able to get as many reps, so you might need some rest. But also, just getting practice reps in, a stimulus, therefore an adaptation will happen. We don't need people to do battle ropes and ball slams and all this crap in classes to get a workout, right? That's easy, but we also can work on skills while working on neurological and physiological adaptations, right? Grip strength, moving your shoulder in concert with your hip in the kip, for example. And And then for your fire breathers, right, your people that have capacity, that have skill, you're trying to refine those pieces. You're working on things. They might move there a little faster, but also you're warming them up. Remember, our intermediate to advanced athletes also have a more risk for injury because they have the ability to move faster. They have the ability to move heavier than their predecessors, right? Their other athletes in the class. So we need to make sure that they're properly warmed up, that they're scaled effectively. These are things that we really need to work on, okay? And that's why I'm so passionate about the hand plan, because I know that even if you follow our lesson plans, if you follow what we do, you're still going to struggle to implement this stuff, and that's okay. That's where you should be. But you, as a programmer, as a head coach, you need to be delivering to yourself and your staff every tool for success to do this. And that's a lot of work. The amount of time and energy it takes to prep for a class is exhausting. Thinking about that progression, that pull-up progression, I'll link it in the bio in this episode so you have some reference. But it's, you need to practice that if you're not practicing. I mean, before I run seminars and I teach that stuff, I practice that on myself with others because I got to make sure that I have it down, that I can speak to different things. I think about cues, what I'm thinking, so I can deliver to them. The challenge pieces, the common questions I'll get, how do I answer those questions, so on and so forth. And another aspect of all of this is group management, which we're not even talking about, is how do you manage the whole group? How do you keep people moving, keep them engaged? You can't be going too slow, but you also don't want to over-rep them. Those are things that you're going to think about and will dramatically change depending on the people that are in your class. So when it's all said and done, we understand that these specialists have an end state archetype that we'd like to get to, but it's not the end-all be-all, because it's really not our goal. Our goal is functional competency. We want to get better at life. We want results, but we're also the generalist, which means we might never get to this perfect end-state virtual piece. Task accomplishment is not the only goal either, right? It's just not, hey, get your chin over the bar no matter what. We'd like for you to move well. It's like deadlifting, just pull the bar off the ground. That's not what we want, right? We want you to be able to do it well and transferable. That's also why we need to teach and understand that the pull-up, specific, the gymnastic hipping pull-up, we should see 20 minimum before you go to the butterfly, and you should be able to do, and I would even say you need to do 15, kipping chest to bar before we move. For the simple reason is you have nothing to lose by doing that. Now you can work on skills, all right, once you have 5 to 10 strict pull-ups, awesome. Now we have our kipping pull-ups. Now we start to develop more competency in those kipping pull-ups. You can slowly work on the butterfly pull-up as a skill, but probably not throw it into workouts until the gymnastic kipping pull-up is a relative joke physically, right? And now you have the buffer and strength just in case something goes on with the shoulder, but also we've really worked on that transferable skill, because the kipping pull-up is a transferable movement to weigh at more things. The butterfly pull-up is really not. It's a relative dead-end movement. We don't see it in other things, but it is absolutely neurologically challenging. Therefore, there's adaptation and capacity neurologically and physiologically, because it will be a different stimulus of a pull-up, right? If you do butterfly pull-ups in a workout compared to gymnastic kipping pull-ups, they're going to be different compared to strict. That not only the pull-up stimulus will be different, the whole workout and the redundancy will be very different. So there's value to learning this stuff from an adaptation perspective. So taking what we understand from the archetype pieces here and distilling it down, that's why the Olympic lifting purists no, that's garbage, blah, 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 blah. But no, we have to get people lifting. We don't need them to look like an Olympian day one. We also can develop some competency with some slight movement faults. That's okay. As long as our athletes are safe, that's important. As long as we're aware of those errors and we're working to get them better. But remember, it's a life's work. Since we're the generalist, we have to accept about 80% of the time we're doing what we need to do. 20% of the time we're going to see errors, and we need to be slowly getting better at those over time. And load and speed and volume will dictate that process as well. If you want to move faster, move heavier, do more, then we need to move better. Therefore, we get closer to those end-state archetypes. It just takes time to get there. I mean, I've been doing CrossFit for 10 years, and by no means am I this pinnacle of movement that everyone should, oh, look, this is the way it should be. Some I would hope I'm close, others I'm not. That's the beauty of it. And remember, I've probably worked out and practiced more in my 10 years than most people will in their whole journey because of, my competing for games. So also understand it's a time thing. And so we can't stifle that either. So it's a balance. Keeping people safe check, absolutely. We also want to keep people getting better, check, and we also need good workouts. So keeping these things in mind can hopefully calm you down. Anytime people live in absolutes, I know as I give you one, be worried. People say you can't do this. Just got to chill. Just relax. It's fitness. When it's all said and done, it's not that big of a deal. Just chill out. If it really makes you that emotional, maybe there's something wrong with you, right? When it comes down to movement or things like that, just chill, right? Because the reality is we're working out, we're moving, that's what matters. So I just like, don't get your panties in a bunch, right? That's what I got for you. Chill, have fun, work hard, do the damn thing, understand your scope, understand your goals, understand why people are coming there, but also, almost know your role. It's a good way to think about it. And don't try to impress upon some opinion or belief onto everyone. That's not what we should be doing. We should be getting people fit, getting them better, keeping them safe, and that's the damn thing. All right, gang. Work hard, have fun. See you on the other side.